knees. And you had mentioned one of the things that you had wanted to talk about was hands, about numbness in the hands, about what to do about that. 'Cause a lot of people gravel riding run into that a lot, myself included. Like even when I wear gloves, I go out on the
Yep,
bike and
heavy.
I do, yeah, more than 45 minutes on a rough gravel trail, and my hands are pretty much gone. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, like how to improve that and solve that problem?
Yeah. So, I whenever I have kind of looked things up to try to do a little research about it, and if relating it to cycling, it's always about the geometry of the bike. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to that, but but I can tell you that. I don't know how familiar you are with like the makeup of your body and how kind of things are structured, but
Assume I have
uh,
absolutely no clue.
okay, let's assume that. Okay, you have a brain here in your skull, right? Um, and
Good starting point. I'm with you.
Right, got it. So out of the bottom of your brain comes your spinal cord, and it goes down, and it has a nice protective little case as it goes down inside of the bones of your spine.
Uh-huh.
And out from there, pieces of your nervous system will come out between each bone, right? So those are called nerve roots. And as they come out, they all follow a predictable pattern, and they go out and they innervate certain areas and do all the different things. So there's usually 3 to 5 consecutive nerves from your spine will go together. They'll join and they'll separate and stuff,
Okay.
and they go to a predictable place
Mm-hmm.
in your body. So when you're out cycling and you're on a bike that's a good fit for you, nice geometry, everything, with your torso and length of your legs, length of your arms, all that. If you're still getting numbness in your hands, numbness, tingling, stuff like that, then you may find that an adjustment can help that, because when you have a problem with joint motion,
Mm-hmm.
then you can get irritation around there. You just get kind of inflammation. I know a lot of people right now in the world have sort of this chronic inflammation. They're finding that inflammation in our bodies is connected with heart disease and
Right.
depression, like all these things,
Right.
like all of these things.
Yeah.
So when you don't have good joint motion, and it's a small amount of motion, like if you're talking about a medical doctor and they're looking at, oh, do you have a dislocated shoulder? When I'm talking about joint motion and when I'm talking about joint dysfunction, I'm talking about something much smaller than that you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that you have. You may or may not have some pain along with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if those nerves are going along their pathway and the position of your arm causes it to get kind of pinched in here, or the way you're holding your head because you're leaning forward, and
Mm-hmm.
how you're holding your head can actually impact those nerves and can give you that numbness and tingling. And so you kind of, if you can sit up, I cannot ride with no hands, but some people might get good results by
Yeah.
just sitting up and relaxing and kind of
Mm-hmm.
getting out of that forward slumped over posture,
Yeah.
so that those things can get a break. And
So it's interesting that you say that, because I've actually had some shoulder problems. My arms are actually slightly different lengths, and so I've actually had some shoulder problems in the past that have kind of resulted from that. And it's because when I ride bikes, I have an imbalance side to side because my arms are slightly different lengths, and so I've been to see a chiropractor in the past about that, because I actually had some numbness in my hands, even off the bike, that I was getting in my fingers and stuff. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but he's like, it's all back here. He says it's all back up here in your neck and in your shoulder and all in this area. And he would basically work on this area up here, and it would solve all the problems down here. It was so crazy because it surprised me, like what you're talking about, how all of that's connected. So to your brain, to your neck, all the way down to your shoulder, and how all those nerves work all the way through, and like that whole kinetic chain all has to be functional and working for those little nerves to finally get down here to the end of your
yeah,
pinky, and like how to solve those problems. And I find that really fascinating, that chiropractic people who do chiropractic work like you do can look at someone and say, okay, well, you have a problem here, but because of that, you've got something in this area, and then just to be able to kind of work through and start to diagnose that. Do you want to talk about like how, so as an example of that, if someone came into you and said, I'm getting a lot of numbness in my hands, especially when I ride a bike, like how would you walk through and like try to diagnose that problem and solve that problem for them?
So when I first see somebody, my exam is pretty much the same on everybody, depending on where your problem is. Is it in your, lower half of your body, or is it in your arms,
Right.
and stuff like that?
Right.
But then I may focus a little more on the things that are connected with that space. But generally, when I see somebody, I'm going to look at their posture, and I'm going to do an exam, do some orthopedic tests. Those help narrow down, okay, what kind of thing is causing this? Is it something in your spine? Is it related to the disc? Is it something with the joints between the vertebrae of the spine? Is it actually out past that? Do you have a muscle here? Do you have a muscle there that's tight or that's loose? Because either one of those things can cause a muscle to impact the nerve.
Because it's the imbalance that you're looking for. But from, imbalance is what you're really looking for, right?
Yeah. Well, so for example, a lot of people have heard of sciatica, and that can be caused by where the nerves are coming out of your spine, or it could be caused by a muscle in your butt that can either be too tight, so it's kind of laying over top of a nerve and pinning it, or it can be so loose that it's just laying flaccid over a nerve.
Really?
So yeah, that's why it's like a puzzle, because it could, it can be a lot of different things. If you're talking about in your hand, is it up here? Is it in the bony area? Is it inflammation around here? Is it your posture goes forward, so you've got tight muscles here and weaker muscles back here and things. So you're going to look, like you pointed out, the kinetic chain. So kinetic meaning movement, right? And so anywhere along here could be affecting something down here. So I'm going to look at everything along that whole pathway to try and figure out where's the problem.
So you said basically where you start is anybody who would come in to talk to you, they say they have a problem, but you're going to start kind of from the same place. So you're going to get a baseline. Is that kind of an accurate way of describing it? So you're going to kind of get a baseline of their posture, of their form, of their kind of where their body is at. And then once you understand that baseline, then you'll start to look at that and say, okay, well, what am I seeing and the problem they're having? So if we're using the numbness in the hands, then you might focus more on the upper body, shoulders, neck area. Or like you say, if they're having some issues with their legs, you might focus on their lower back, hips, thighs, that kind of a thing, to try to figure out what's actually driving the main issue. So you start from a baseline and then you try to work your way forward from there. So is that a good description?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would use the term baseline, but yeah, just going along everything, all of the pathway that could possibly be causing this symptom of whatever the thing is.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
So one thing that's different about my practice, so a lot of people have been to chiropractors before, and seeing me is going to be quite different because I have a mobile practice. So nobody's going to walk into my office, right?
Yeah.
So usually somebody will typically call me and they've got some kind of pain most of the time, like 99% of the time.
Right.
So usually we'll chat a little bit ahead of time, and then I'll send them a link, because I have all of my paperwork and everything is online. So they'll fill all of that out, and I look all through that before we even get together. Did you hear that? Maybe it's nice. Okay.
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So then when I get to somebody's house, then I bring in my table and my Apple tool bag that I bring. I come in and we're going to sit and we're going to talk. I always tell them to sit wherever you feel most comfortable. This is your house, A lot of times when I walk in, people want to either help carry my table because it looks quite big. I mean, it is open.
Yeah.
Right. They either want to help carry my table, or they offer me snacks or a drink, which I appreciate the drink. I almost always have water with me though. But so we'll sit down and we'll just talk a little bit at the beginning, kind of go over everything that they had put on their forms. And I always want to make sure that somebody feels comfortable. That's one of the things that I think is nice about this kind of a practice, though, because they're in their own comfort zone.
Right.
So, if I mostly treat women who I can relate with, which is women who are busy with kids or women who are busy with a business.
Right.
So, they're in their comfort zone. They don't have to take a lot of time away from all the other responsibilities that they have. So we're going to sit down and, tell me anything else that you may have not put on the form. And then we go through the exam and stuff. And then at the end of an appointment with me, I almost always adjust on the first visit. If there's been like an actual accident, or if some of the findings from the exam tell me, hey, I actually need an x-ray or something, then I might send somebody out in a situation like that. But mostly I'm going to adjust on the first visit. And some people are nervous about that. Some people love it. There are different ways to adjust. Some people love that cracking sound, and other people are like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to feel it. I want to find something else to do to me. And so that's fine too. I typically, my first mode of treatment is usually with my hands, so most people are going to get that. But, if you don't like it, then there are other things that I can do. So most people tell me that, and this is since I was in school, most people have told me that I have a very gentle style, and that a lot of people before them have been very forceful. So, So people have often said that my style is different, and they have sometimes been surprised that I could get things to work that with the way that I adjust, with the way that it feels. So.
That's interesting. So it's neat that you talk about, like, because you had mentioned to me that you actually go to them, but I had actually forgot that. So I'm sorry. I had forgotten that you mentioned that you actually go to them. And but you mentioned about the cracking thing. Like, that's not my favorite part, but I love how I feel afterwards. Like, it is totally worth it. Like, once you're loosened up, you're like, oh man, I've been dealing with that soreness for like 2 or 3 days now, and like, I don't have to deal with that anymore. It is totally worth it.
Yeah. So. I have been going to the chiropractor, since I was a kid. It was the first time that I ever saw a chiropractor. And so even with that, when I am getting adjusted, when I'm getting my neck adjusted, I laugh because I've had 5 kids, and they were all unmedicated births. And so when I'm getting adjusted with my neck, especially if it's somebody who's not adjusted me before, I'm like, okay, utilizing my birth technique to calm and relax for a second. And, so, I've been going to the chiropractor for probably 30, 35 years. And so sometimes it just doesn't ever wear off, even if you have never had an issue, you've never had a bad experience. Sometimes you're just like, okay, get ready. All right.
Take a deep breath. Yeah. Well, that is so cool. I find that really interesting. So where in the area do you actually travel to? So what is the range of kind of where you go, and how far you travel for your mobile chiropractic?
So chiropractors are licensed by state. So I'm licensed only in Missouri, so it's got to be the Missouri side of the metro.
Okay.
And I typically tell people about a 15-mile radius from Chiefs and Arrowhead, or Chiefs and Royals Stadium.
Okay.
It's a good guideline.
Yeah.
I will sometimes go farther than that, but at that point I have to charge extra money. So
yeah, that gets a little bit farther.
Yeah.
But that basically would probably cover pretty much anything from close to like Grain Valley territory, like out kind of around that area, maybe up slightly north of the river, and then basically down to like what Raymore? Is Raymore 15 miles, or is it a little less than that?
Depending on the part of Raymore, yes.
Okay.
So most of the time I'm in Lee Summit, but I also go to Raymore, Grandview, Independence, Raytown. So far, that's my most active location.
And you're, like you said, you're kind of around the Rock Island Trail, so probably a lot of people you work with are kind of in that little corridor right there, kind of that Lee Summit, Kansas City corridor, probably.
Yeah, we could set up a bicycle party on the side of the trail. Be like, okay, this is the time we're going to go meet Dr. Amy. She's going to adjust everybody as you come in. Hop on your bike and roll away.
Yeah, you can just come out there, set up your table, and just people. That sounds like a party. Or you could work out a thing with Crane Brewery, and do a.
I love Crane. They're
awesome.
So community oriented there. I don't know if you've ever been down there.
Yeah. And they have really clever names for all their stuff too. So you'd have to come up with something that was like something that would be like clever with like a crack and Well, no, maybe that makes this so great. But anyways, you can come up with some kind of clever name to do with them, with chiropractic and alcohol.
Somebody could. That somebody would not be me.
have the marketing person take care of that. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I don't guess so. I meant to reread your the content plan before we got on, and I completely forgot.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So I've got all the questions here, and we've pretty much gotten through. So that those leader questions that I sent you a couple days ago, we're pretty much through all that. Let me scroll down a little farther and see if I missed anything, and if I have to, I can just cut stuff in later, or in the middle or something like that. Let's see. We talked about your first long ride. We talked about numb hands. We talked about pedals jamboree. Other things you do in your spare time. We talked about disc golf. Is there anything else there you want to cover outside of, you said what are the things you do in your spare time? Anything else you want to cover there?
Oh, I mean, not specifically.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of spare time.
Yeah, these days. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to read. Everybody else in my house always wants to watch TV.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please, can we just turn off the TV?
My wife's the same way. She loves to read as well. Okay, and then let me do a thing. Let me just do a quick run on. Actually, would you mind doing a quick run on all of your websites and socials and stuff like that? And then I'll cut that in and post it. So if you want to just do your website, where people can find you on Facebook and Instagram, and then if you want to, your email address that people can email you at, and then I will just post all that up. So all of this, like me talking and rambling nonsensically, I will cut all that out, and then I'll put you at the end, kind of doing your all your socials and stuff. Would you want to just do a quick run? Just do your email, do your Facebook, Insta, any socials you want to do, and then like an email address people can contact you at. If you want to do that real quick when you're ready.
Well, so as I said, when you talked about Crane and trying to come up with a clever idea for it, here's how clever I am. My website is lifewaychiropractic.com.
There you go.
My Facebook and Instagram handles are Lifeway Chiropractic. My website, my Google Your Business, also Lifeway Chiropractic.
Okay.
So
cool.
That's it.
All right, and then your email address that if somebody wanted to contact you and maybe ask about setting up an appointment, what email should they use?
That is Dr. Crowe, all written out, Crowe with an E, at lifewaychiropractic.com.
Awesome. Great. And I'll post all that up on there too with text and everything so they can just pull all that out.
Okay.
Alrighty, I think that about covers it.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Amy. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to you too, and we'll get that disc golf outing together. That'll be fun.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. See ya.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.